Hello and welcome to Sounds from the Grave. My name is Yussef, and today we're going to be talking about The Black Phone 2, sequel to 2021's The Black Phone, starring Mason Thames, Ethan Hawke, and Madeline McGraw. And also directed by Scott Derrickson, who directed the first one as well. So to start off, before we begin the actual film review, I do want to mention that this is going to be a spoiler-free, because there are certain things in this film that need to be experienced. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. So I am going to touch on a few story beats, but most of it has to do with stuff that was already shown in the trailer. But outside of that, I'm really not going to delve deep into the story, because I want this film to be something that people experience without getting it spoiled for them. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the review. So just to give you a brief synopsis of this one, the story follows Finn and Gwen a couple of years after the events of the first Black Phone, and this one kind of focuses more on the aftermath of what happened and them dealing with the trauma that they both endured. And it seems like things have been, kind of normal for a bit, until Gwen starts having bad dreams again. This time dreaming about missing children in a youth camp during a winter storm, which then leads them to go to this youth camp and explore it and kind of get to the bottom of what's happening. But at the same time, a certain somebody is back. And as the trailer suggests, dead is just a word.
You're dead. You, of all people, know that dead is just a word.
So my initial thoughts on Black Phone 2, and this is literally what I'm giving you today because I just got out of the theater about 2-3 hours ago, and said, alright, the moment I get home, I'm going to record this video and I'm going to talk about my thoughts on this, because this movie was honestly amazing. And to the point where, as I'm watching it, I was thinking I kind of like this better than the first Black Phone, which was surprising for me, honestly, because I was a really big fan of the original Black Phone. I thought it was a really well-crafted film. Scott Derrickson did a terrific job with this, and honestly, he brought his A-game back for Black Phone 2, as did everybody working on this film. So I do have a few issues with the movie, but before I get into those, I definitely want to talk about the positives and the things I really enjoyed about the film. And starting off, I definitely want to talk about the incredible performances from Mason Thames, from Madeline McGraw, and from Ethan Hawke. Starting off with Mason Thames as Finn, he did such a great job of a character that has gone through, some very severe trauma, and we're kind of seeing the aftermath of that trauma and how he's been dealing with that. And then, I think it was a very compelling performance. He did a terrific job as this kind of damaged character, because that's technically what he is. His innocence was damaged by what happened in the first film. So it's interesting to see kind of that dynamic of how he is, kind of dealing with that trauma. And then moving on to Madeline McGraw, wow, what a performance, honestly. There were some incredibly emotional scenes, and I'm not gonna lie, about 80% of that was all because of Madeline's acting. The other 20% was the writing, which was also terrific, but, you can write something and it's good on paper, but having somebody act it out and do such an emotional, heart-wrenching performance from it is what really sells it here for me. And Madeline, and honestly, almost every scene that she's in, it's a delight. She is such a terrific actress here, and her character and the way that she plays Gwen is so interesting and so nuanced. And yeah, this is just terrific. I honestly cannot wait to see Madeline in more projects, and specifically more horror projects, because I know she's been in a couple things here and there, but I definitely want to see more of her in the future because she's a terrific actress. And then moving on to Ethan Hawke. If you thought the Grabber was unhinged in the first Black Phone, you are not ready for the Black Phone 2. This man has become even more sadistic, more evil, if that's even possible. But yeah, Ethan Hawke honestly kills it as the Grabber, like more than he did in the first one. And that's really all I want to say on that, because I don't want to delve too much into the Grabber's character. And then something else I wanted to discuss as well are some of the new side characters that we get, specifically two of them, Armando and Ernie, who have ties to the overall story of Black Phone 2, as well as some ties to the story of the first Black Phone. Now that's really all I want to say. I don't want to spoil anything else for anybody there. Just know that there are going to be references to the Black Phone in the Black Phone 2, and it definitely does help it that you watch the first one before watching the second one. It's not kind of a standalone. There are plenty of references, and a lot of it has to do with the aftermath of the first Black Phone. And there are some of these new characters that also approach that subject and also deal with that storyline. Now, moving on to another one of my positives, the overall cinematography and the setting of this film, because the majority of this film is set in a youth camp that's been snowed in by a blizzard, and there's literally no way out. And it honestly reminded me of things like films like The Thing, because it really does provide you with this sense of isolation of like, man, these characters are very much stuck here. There's nowhere for them to go. Like, there's no escaping this kind of a situation, which I thought was just so extremely well crafted and well made. And then going back to that cinematography, Scott Derrickson's trademark of shooting certain things and certain scenes in either 8mm or 16mm to give it that really extremely just a grainy, dirty look. It's a trademark of his, and he does it so well, even better than he did in the first Black Phone here. And it's used a lot more than it was in the original as well, and it's a great way to differentiate certain things that happen and don't happen in the movie. Outside of that too, there's some terrific music here. The soundtrack for this film was incredible. Even the license music. In the first one, they used the Pink Floyd song. They do this again here. It's a different song, but it fits the vibe of the film so well. And honestly, that's the overall soundtrack. It's very synth heavy, but it's not overpowering where it's just like, oh, it's just somebody imitating the 80s. No, it's a little bit more subtle. It does have its moments where it goes a little bit more synth heavy, but it's subtle enough where it does not feel like just aping the synth sound of the 80s. And then moving on to some more positives as well, I love the writing in this film. The way that the story was told was really interesting. Not to mention the amount of like little hints and little homages to previous films, from the 80s, like The Thing, like Friday the 13th, like Nightmare on Elm Street. This movie is chock full of references, but they don't feel like, hey, remember this movie? It feels like it flows a little bit more naturally, almost like this movie could have been released in the 80s and would have fit that timeline perfectly. Something else to note as well is the fact that the overall story benefits the first story, or the story from the first film very, very well. It isn't one of those things where it feels like, oh, the first movie did well, let's shoehorn a sequel. Definitely did not feel that way. It honestly felt like a very natural progression of where the story would have gone if they kept kept the story going. And that's something I really admire, because it doesn't feel like a cash grab. It feels like, oh, this is going to be the next logical step in this story. So major props to Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill on that, and the other writers in the script, because they did a terrific job of not just tying everything together, but also exploring new territory in terms of, okay, how can we take this story that was already created and expand the world of it? So yeah, absolutely terrific work on that as well. And now, just a few of the things that I wasn't a big fan of. There are certain times in the film where it doesn't feel like the stakes are high enough, because you're dealing with essentially what's a supernatural force now, because obviously the grabber died at the end of the first film, and he's kind of become something more now. And there are certain points where in the film you would think that things would be going a certain way, but then they go another. To the point where you're like, okay, I feel like that lowered the stakes. It doesn't feel as tense. It doesn't feel as, like, oh, we have to take care of this now. Or you don't feel like, oh, this character may not make it. This character will make it. There are certain times where it kind of throws you for a loop where you think it's going to go one way, but it doesn't. But to the point where it lowers the stakes and it doesn't feel as tense as I feel like it should have. Honestly, that is my biggest gripe with the film. Outside of that, I think this was incredibly well made. Some very amazing performances, again, specifically from Madeline McGraw. She absolutely kills it in this. Some great cinematography, great music, some amazing lighting. I forgot to talk about the lighting. The way that this movie is lit is very atmospheric. It's very, like, just like creepy, and it really does make you feel that isolation. And yeah, terrific work on the technical aspect of things, just to really give you this sense of where these characters are, what kind of a situation they're in. Absolutely amazing work there. Great soundtrack. Just like I said, a couple of things where the story goes where it doesn't feel as high stakes as it could have been. But honestly, outside of that, The Black Phone 2 is a must-see. I think it's a terrific film. It takes everything that worked in the original, and for the most part, it does improve everything and really adds a lot more to the world of The Black Phone and to the characters and to the grabber himself. It does add so much more to that, and it still feels self-contained in a way where it isn't just like throwing exposition at you. It's told in a very interesting way where, like, it gets revealed to you as it gets also revealed to the character, so it feels very natural. But overall, this was a solid film. I definitely recommend going to theaters to watch it, and I give The Black Phone 2 an 8 out of 10. Alright guys, I definitely want to thank you so much for watching my review of The Black Phone 2. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you could, please like, comment, and subscribe on the video. And make sure you follow us on our socials here, and we'll catch you pretty soon on the next video. And remember, stay spooky.